flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody here tonight and join us in our new redesigned boardroom. It looks nice. Have we got any needs for translation tonight? Okay, seeing none, I need an approval of the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
I second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. Next thing is public comment. Have we got any public comment tonight?
No comments this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next one is recognition.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to recognize our students and staff at each board meeting. And so tonight we have an excellent opportunity to recognize some student athletes in our system. And so I'm going to invite Travis McDonald forward, their coach, to talk about their excellence and what they accomplished just in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, I'm not used to this, but I'm usually loud enough to do this without this kind of thing. But thank you for having us and taking the time to recognize these two student athletes right here with me. My name is Travis McDonald. I'm the unified coach for bowling. It's a fall sport. This is my assistant coach, Josie Flamenco. She's been with me for 4 years now. She was working at the high school in the sped room. That's kind of how that came to be there. So this year we had the opportunity, these guys qualified for state bowling in Kennewick the 19th of November. So let me kind of give you a background of how they got to that point to have the opportunity to do that. So every year at the beginning of the year, I kind of go to the SPED department and kind of basically recruit the kids that I think would be perfect, or maybe just basically everyone that qualifies. You know, I want everybody, you know, bowling's a real sport that anybody can do. So I get a list of that, and then we kind of hit the floor running with asking the kids if they want to do that. And if they do, a lot of it's Josie because it's a lot of Spanish speaking. But we ask the parents, we get the kids approved to do it, and then we get a list of kids. So after that, we get a list of special ed kids. There are athletes. So everything in our department, in our bowling thing, is based off of them. So we get a list of how many we need, and then we go after the partners. Our partners are the gen ed kids, and what we do is we partner them up into doubles teams, and then we go to the bowling alley in Moses Lake because our bowling alley here is unfortunately closed. So that's just kind of what we have to do. It ended up being a good thing. The SPED kids love to ride the bus with the gen ed kids. You know, they don't get a lot of opportunity to do stuff with that part of it. So it's kind of an adventure every week. So once a week we go over there. We bowl. We bowl 2 games. Takes a couple hours. The kids have fun. You know, they just kind of do their own thing. They're, you know, coaching's kind of a, you know, I kind of show them some tips, but you know, they kind of do their own thing because it's an adventure trying to teach some of them. But so at first we don't really have them partnered up, but we kind of fill out the kids, see who would fit with who, because every kid, especially on the special needs side, has needs. Maybe it's just not a fit for every gen ed kid to be with whenever special ed kids. So we team them up. They start bowling 2 games, like I said. They get an average. We send that in to Special Olympics, and we do that for about 2.5 months. And so once a week for 2.5 months, and then at the end of October, usually we do have a regional tournament that we take the kids to. This year I had 28 kids. That was my highest amount ever. It's a mission. So then we go to that tournament. We're in the basin region. We go against Moses Lake, Omak, Wenatchee, and everyone else spread out in those little towns in there. We meet in Moses Lake. Like they said, we're the unified doubles, so we have shifts because there's so many different categories that you can be in. You can be in ramp if you have walking disabilities and stuff like that. If you're blind, you know, there's a lot of different categories. But every year we've done it, we've just been in the unified doubles division. So during that tournament, every kid participates, every kid wins. So that's the most important thing about this thing. Everybody wins, everyone's having a good time, everyone gets medals. So at the end of the day, they tabulate their scores from their 2 games they bowl. They get medals like that. If they receive a gold medal in their division, they qualify for state in a lottery system is how they do it, because you're going against the whole state. There's just too many kids. So I've been doing this, I think, for 8 years. This is the second team that's ever been drawn.
Wow.
We've had one other team, and with some timing situation, they couldn't make it, so they didn't get to participate. But this year, thank goodness, especially for Robert, it's his senior year, so they sent us that list of qualifying kids. That we were all excited. We were so excited. So on the 19th, like we said, we sent these guys off with a little firemen coming out of town. We went to Tri-Cities, and they bowled 3 games at state. And you're going against, I heard towns like Grays Harbor, Seattle. You're going against the whole state, which it's crazy. There's 4 different shifts. They do it Saturday, 2 shifts, and we were actually Sunday morning, which was really weird. But they bowled awesome. They bowled awesome. We had a lot of support from our community. Go and be there, family, friends, and it was just really cool to see them light up when they did the work and they pulled off the win for our town, I guess, our team. So I'm going to introduce them right here. This is Robert Pernetta. He's a senior. What, 3 years? Because of COVID, I think we got 3 years. They won 3 years straight. They've been a team for 3 years now. They won gold every year. Sophomore, junior, senior, and senior year for him, I guess he's lucky that he qualified for state. And this is my son Samson McDonald, and it's crazy that my own kid got drawn out of all my kids. But we're really proud of them. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me and listen about our program. If you guys have any questions for me or about my kids or to the kids, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
So what was your total score of your, like, combined score? Is that how they do it, the combined score together?
Yes, they, so
For,
they
to
both- I
to
can't-
win first in state? This is
So
just,
how it works is during their season when they're going to Moses Lake, they every week they accrue an average. So
Okay.
they take every score and then basically divide it. Everything's based off of a 200 average. So let's just make it easy. If you bowl 100, your average is going to be 100 handicap, basically, to make up for that 200. I think both of them, their average were, I think Sam's was like 103 and Robert's was 101, I think. And I think at the state games, they both right at that or better every game, which helps tremendously.
oh, yeah.
So they did really well.
This just melts my heart. You guys just, I love that everybody put it on social media so we could see all of you and your smiles. And the people in Othello that were able to go. But everybody's always backing, and we're all so proud of everything you guys do. It's just amazing. This is what a topping for the senior year, Robert.
Yes.
We're happy for 'em.
Yes.
Was that 28 kids total?
Yes,
So 14 pairs.
We actually had more SPED students this year so I have to get a list of SPED kids first before I try to match with the Gen Ed kids, because I just need to know how many, because usually in common years, or like, I'm fighting, I had to push kids away, I have too many kids. Well, this year I just couldn't get enough kids for some reason, so I actually had more sped kids than gen ed kids. So I had one team that was, we're unified doubles, which is a special education student and a gen ed kid. But this year I had two sped kids together, higher functioning sped kids, and they bowl together in traditional doubles. So that's the only year we've actually had to do that. So
That's great.
but I
Wow.
think as we get more kids, it's kind of harder to fill. We shouldn't have to do that. We have so many kids at the high school, but I think a lot of it is not knowing the program and not knowing what it's about. You know, like I know the inclusion is a lot more in the sped department than it's ever been, but still the fear of unknowing is big with kids.
Yeah.
So that's
I
why
think
this
the
program-
inclusion is amazing.
Yeah, and this program is breaking that down a little bit by little bit, and you know, through the kids I know, and I used to coach basketball. This is my first year I've done that. I used to basically make the kids that didn't play a fall sport do this. So it's kind of, but they loved it. You know, once they did it, once you get that first week out of the way, they love it.
I think it's kind of a lesser known sport
Yeah.
that unless you do it, you don't really understand. But I mean, I've been bowling, it's hard.
And I tell you, it's just, we're there for fun and we're there for the sped kids, you know.
Mhm.
It's their time to shine, because, you know, they don't have a lot that's offered, so this is for them 100%. You're just there to help, and you know, and basketball is great, and soccer, so we have 3 different sports, so it's a pretty amazing thing to watch.
That's great.
Thank you.
I just want to say congratulations to both you young men. It's not very often that you get to bring home a state title, so congratulations. What a great job. And thank you to the coaches. That's so much work and time and energy and effort and love that you put in. And so just, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much, and congratulations, boys.
Yes, congratulations. And you said this is 3 years?
So they got gold in their bracket at Moses Lake for 3 years in a row, but this is the first year they've ever got drawn
To go to state.
go on, yeah, and this is, like I said, the second time ever,
Wow.
so.
Wonderful.
lucky.
Great
Yes.
job.
So lucky.
Great job.
I am going to be very honest. I'm kind of choked up over here because it just brings back memories. And I really wish that if things were different with my dad, I know we would have totally partnered with the school for the kids to be at the bowling alley and everything. And
Yeah,
So-
we started off there.
yeah,
We were there every year that they were available to us. It's just, I know stuff changes in life, and,
Yeah.
but, you know, to keep the program alive, we had to do what we had
Yeah.
to do. And, you know, getting help through the sped department and teaming with Marion to get the bus drivers. You know, there's a lot of things that have to go right to get this program, especially bowling, because basketball and soccer, we have all the facilities that we can at our disposal through our school district,
yeah,
but bowling, we just don't. So,
yeah.
you know, there's a lot of things that have to happen right, and we get a lot of help from a lot of people, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, bowling is awesome. I've
It's fun.
been there, done that. I love it, and I hope I get to see you guys play one of these days. I'd even go up against you guys. Let's go.
Guys, you
Yeah,
deserve
thank
this. Oh, we're not done yet.
Stand in front of me, Travis. So cool.
Hey, Travis, before you go, and the boys as well, and Josie, I just want to add 2 pieces from the district perspective. One is that Josie and Travis both work for us in different capacities, and it's when I communicate with the board weekly about people, right? Those are the kind of folks that I'm talking about, just really kind people who see the potential in kids and are willing to invest their time and energy to provide these kinds of opportunities for them and for their families. And to Robert and Samson, they're such a good example to the rest of our students about bowling is a lifelong activity. You can do that for your entire life, right? The other piece that comes out of these kinds of activities is the lifelong friendships and partnerships and lessons you can learn in working with people that have different abilities and different points of view and different perspectives and different skills. So for the athletes and for the partners, we have such a strong unified program in Othello, and for them to shine the light on that a little bit, I want to thank the boys for that, Robert and Samson, for doing so well, for celebrating the school district in supporting those activities, but their excellence, their effort to go down there for 2.5 months, and for the coaches to organize the team in a way that allowed them to be successful. So thank you for all that work and all that effort, and for I think changing perspectives and lives for kids that we're not going to know for the next 5 or 10 years. Thank you for doing all that.
Thank you. Okay, time for student representative reports. Jaden, I see Sebastian's not here tonight.
No, Sebastian's not here. I wish he was, because we were going to talk about WASDA. We were going to make a little slide presentation and everything, but he couldn't show up. It's okay. So recently we had, sorry, I'm sick. Recently we had the amazing opportunity to go to the WASDA conference in, I think, Bellevue. I think it was Bellevue. And man, it was amazing. It was the second time I was able to go, and first time Sebastian was able to go. And I wish he was here to talk about it, because I know he would crush whatever he was going to say. Yeah, and another thing is this is a closing to a chapter, which is really sad, but it's okay. One more meeting. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, guys, thank you.
Okay. We'll go on to board member discussion. I do not have a legislative report tonight, but we'll go on to the WASDA conference kind of debrief and what the members thought of it.
Well, I will say that it's not every WASDA that we go to that I feel like I get something out of every session that I go to. Sometimes it's like, oh, I've heard this before, or this doesn't really apply because it's not for our district our size, or but I have to say that every session I went to at this WASDA, I learned. I have pages and pages of notes of different things that they're doing in different districts that are applicable to Othello. Some things that we're already doing that's like, great, we're 5 steps ahead of other people who haven't started this. So I thought WASDA was very beneficial. A lot of great information. Shout out to our superintendent, who was asked to present with some other people from across the state and did the best out of the 3. Subtle brag. And also Mr. Meek, who presented, also did a great job representing Othello. Exciting to see both of you guys represent Othello in that aspect. And lots of exciting things happening and getting ready to happen. And yeah, we learned a lot about standards-based grading and also about college in the classroom. There was a lot of beneficial classes that we went to, for me anyway.
I really appreciated there was a lot of different tracks and a lot of different ways to kind of focus your learning. And I think that as a group, we did a really good job kind of dividing so that we caught as many of those different topics as possible. Most of the lectures that I went to that I was choosing were around mental health resources for students and legislative agenda and efforts and for the coming 2024 session. And those pieces are ways that I hope to be able to continue to help the board over the next couple of years.
I thoroughly enjoyed the WASDA conference. What I really enjoyed is that we were able to get together and we kind of looked at the different schedules, so we weren't duplicating ourselves all the time. And I think we covered a pretty good area of all the different subjects going on there. I attended one about bonds and levies within the school districts, and it's just not here. It's a statewide issue. Out of the last measure, there was up 20 bonds that were on the ballot, and only 3 passed that I know. So it's a statewide issue, and it's going to be a challenging issue when we finally get to that point to get ready to present another bond to the public again. And also, I really need to compliment Amy on her efforts with the state auditors this year. There was one particular area to do with the federal grant monies. And to come to find out that 90% of the findings nationwide are coming out of Washington State. So that was a really interesting number, and how you and your department were able to not have a finding in that area was really incredible. And all the work that you went through to show the auditors on how we use those funds. It was a big compliment actually for you and your department. So I really appreciate that.
I feel like the WASDA conference and the NSBA conference is always really good because of the bonding that it creates for the board members. So I highly recommend any incoming board members to attend those big conferences because I feel like that's what really we get most out of it, is really getting to know each other, understanding our thinking, respecting each other's decisions and choices. But for me, what I took out of it, I really loved the keynote speaker on the first day. He had some really amazing things to say. And sometimes as adults, you also need a little bit of motivation and inspiration, and I felt like that's what he gave me. And something that I took really interesting out of the conference, and when I spoke to Lindsay after the fact, she mentioned that the school district did do something like this in some sense after the bond. But they mentioned about the importance of taking like senior citizens and adults without children in the school district to tour our schools. So some of the committees that I was thinking of is like the Rotary, the Lions Club, the Beautification Committee, even some church groups. There's lots of groups in Othello that from my experience in being part of the bond and levy process multiple times, is when we would go and talk to the Rotary or we would go talk to the Lions Club, a lot of them wanted to just vote no just because they didn't have any kids or children or grandkids in the system anymore. So they didn't feel a purpose or reason why they should be voting yes. So I felt like it would be super, super, super important for us to invite those committees, bring them into the schools, share to them, exactly why we are asking for a bond, show them our finances, show them what we're really struggling in, because I feel as they come and they see it for themselves, then maybe they'd be a little bit more prone and active to wanting to vote yes. The other one that we really, that I thought was very interesting was the PASS, which is a Partner Alliance for Safer Schools. And it was, I got lots of really great information about school safety from that lecture, and the number one thing that they talked about was locking doors. So it was pretty interesting to see. They have lots of online resources already available, checklists, guidelines, everything that a school district should kind of already be doing or be checking and working with their local police department, sheriff's department, and other health and safety government officials. But I thought that was really interesting, just some of the information that they provided and the resources that they also provide online. So, yeah.
Thank you. Pete, did you have anything?
I'll just add just a couple of components. In the audience tonight, we have former board members and incoming board members, and One of the things during policy governance that was a commitment that the board made was to attend professional development for themselves. Right? There was a strong commitment to NSBA and to WASDA. And when we transitioned away from policy governance, we were mindful to hang on to some things that really mattered, and this was one of them. So just an offer of appreciation to you all for investing, 2 or 3 days away from your families to engage in that work and to bring some of those ideas back to our district. I know that that's a significant commitment from a volunteer position, so I want to acknowledge that and thank you for that. The next piece, I guess, about WASDA that I always appreciate is it gives the board an opportunity to hear some of the good things happening across the state and to say, oh, we're doing some of that in Othello. Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Actually, I heard of that 2 years ago. We're a little bit ahead. That's always a good thing. The other piece is when people bring concerns or complaints or challenges they're facing as board members, it's just not Othello. They're feeling that someplace else too. It's just not us. And I think that broader perspective is really helpful for the board. I'm going to talk about a specific lesson that I learned there, but it'll come in superintendent informational items. But Lindsay mentioned the session that I got to participate in, and what I thought was really encouraging about that is I got to share the work of our principals around feedback and what they're doing in classrooms. And perhaps I don't say it enough, but it's very unique work, very different than what other school districts across the state are doing. And the frequency and the urgency with which our principals are working in being in classrooms, it's a pretty special thing, and it's going to lead to really good outcomes for our kids. We just got to stick at it a little bit. So thank you for going. Thank you for demonstrating that commitment, and I look forward to sharing the lessons you've learned with incoming board members and with the rest of the system.
Thank you. Is there any more for board member discussion? Okay, then we will go on to the required approvals. Do I hear a motion for the required approvals?
I motion to approve required approvals.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Then we'll go on to superintendent informational items.
Yeah, so the first one is, you probably felt it right when you walked in the room, and maybe you smelled the fresh paint. We've been smelling it for a few days. We spoke with Greg Foltz and his maintenance team. Gosh, it's been only about a week ago, and said, hey, we're thinking about doing something in the boardroom, and the next day they showed up and started taking stuff down. So it went a little bit quicker than we had expected, but I want to give you a sense of where we're headed. We're just partway there. But for board meetings, the room was functional, but that was 2 times a month. For other meetings, it was very, very challenging to use this room with that permanent space here. So in removing that and adjusting the mics a little bit, taking out we found some water under the, I didn't know water expired, but apparently it does. So we found some items in that kitchen area that just weren't used, and really appreciate our maintenance folks coming in so quickly and taking care of that. What you should expect to see in the coming months is a screen here, a screen behind me. So it'll have 2 drop-down projectors, not only for board meetings, but also for professional development sessions. You're going to start to notice some new artifacts on the wall, images of our school and our students, not the generic sort of teamwork items that were up there. So you're going to notice some of that coming our way. All of that we expect would happen again in December and January as we transition this space for what we want it to be. We're considering the setup for the board desks. At a minimum, it'll have privacy screens, and we're considering like what we're going to do here permanently. So we apologize for the inconvenience of how it might feel now. But we wanted it to make it a more usable space, and it was, all we've invested so far is about 10 square feet of carpet and a little bit of paint, and certainly the man hours to make it feel like it is now. But again, really want to thank technology and maintenance for coming in so quickly. It's going to be a really cool space for us.
Mm-hmm.
The next item is about the Othello Chamber of Commerce. I had a meeting with them last week to talk about a request they have about a facility, but more importantly to talk about the possibility of the school district joining the Chamber of Commerce as a member. Certainly we've been member of Rotary for years. So I don't think this is a sort of voting item for the board, but I wanted you to be aware we're going to join the Chamber of Commerce. I think they have 10 or 12 folks that work on a committee or a leadership board or something that they have. We're going to look to participate on that group, and so they've asked us to support more directly in the chamber banquet in identifying the teachers that we want to honor. So it was a really positive and productive meeting, and I just wanted to make you aware that we're going to sign up and be members of the Chamber of Commerce. The next one is around board agenda updates, and this is one of the items I'm taking away from WASDA. In sitting through one of the sessions around coherence and strategic planning and keeping things in front of the board, with policy governance, that was one of the benefits of it. There was a report every meeting, right? We're consistently monitoring, and we've left it in our agenda as assurance of organizational performance. So one of the things you're going to see moving forward, tonight you just see the Hiawatha Elementary report, but I'm going to embed the 3 district priorities around feedback, multilingual learners, and PLCs. And at each board meeting, we'll present on one or all 3 of those topics, just so they stay top of mind for the board, they stay top of mind for the community. And when I heard that at WASDA, I said, that makes a lot of sense to me. Not unlike the superintendent goals being embedded in there, but I want to include these in the formal agenda itself. And so there won't always be an item or a report or a piece of content there, but they'll always be listed there, and we'll look to update things with more frequency. So that'll be a difference that folks will notice moving forward.
Great.
Okay, appreciate it. And then also in that is the October 2023 financial reports. Okay, next thing on the item agenda is Hiawatha Elementary School.
Yeah, we'd like to invite
Yes.
Will Von Brockford. Will is our principal over at Hiawatha, and excited for his update tonight after the site visit we had. Been a couple weeks ago now, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we, in follow-up, well, first of all, I'd like to excuse Jessica King, my assistant principal. She's out of town right now, so she wasn't able to join us. But we're grateful for the board coming through and having our site visit a couple of weeks ago. You were able to meet with teachers, you were able to meet with classified staff, you were able to get in the classrooms and observe students in action. I think you saw kind of what's going on at Hiawatha and what we're trying to do. And so I want to be able to provide you with some more frames and some more context for that visit here after the fact. We've shared a couple of times, I think we shared in our opening presentation with the board this year to start the school year, and then we shared again on your site visit that our focus this year is on integrity and creating a system that has integrity, that has integrity for our students. So as they move through our system, as they move through a grade level and then throughout grade levels, that I often think of the chain when I think of this, that a weak link, we know that can be very damaging to a student and for their education. So creating systems and so for those students to be able to continue to build on their learning, and that every grade level we're able to guarantee learning for every student has really been our focus this year. And it's been a heavy lift, but it's the right lift, and we're really excited for what we're doing. You've seen our core values before. I want to put them up there because as we build integrity, this is really what we're building integrity around. This is the commitment we've made to each other. These are the commitments we've made to our community and to each of our students that come through our door. And so we're making sure, and we'll circle back to these at the end and highlight a couple of these, but we're making sure these are in front of us. And that every meeting, every decision we make is based on these things. So just to give a foundation for the work we're doing this year and what our current reality is and kind of why, we started the school year in front of staff looking at some longitudinal data, looking at where we've been really the past 9 to 10 years and what things have looked like as far as achievement at Hiawatha. So you're going to see the ELA data and the math data compared to the state over the last, like I said, 9 to 10 years. And we won't dive into like specific numbers, but I think what you see first with ELA, and it'll be similar with math, is we sat together as a staff and said, hey, what do we see and what do we notice when we look at these graphs? 2 things stand out to us. Number 1 is that we are consistently below the state average, and number 2 is that we're overall flat We haven't seen strong growth or a trajectory of growth over those years. And for 4 to 5 of those years, I've been there. So I take those things personal as we look at that. Same with math, right? We see a little more up and down there too, but when we look at from the beginning to the end, we're overall fairly flat. So what are we gonna do? And what is, we got together and none of us were comfortable with this and where we're at. And so how have we been addressing this year is what we're gonna share today. And to understand how we're thinking about this work and what we're doing, and asking ourselves, why has this been flat? Because we've done a lot of work, right, over those 10 years. I don't wanna give any impression that people haven't been working really hard to try to make some changes here, or that people are apathetic about this at all. But why is it that we haven't seen the growth that we would like to see, and that a lot of people have worked really, really hard to see? We've focused and been thinking about this framework, and maybe this is something that Pete shared with you in the past, but it's called the instructional core. And basically the concept here is that all learning happens in the relationship between students and what they're working on, the teacher and their knowledge and skill of teaching and the content, what's actually in front of students. All right, and all of that culminates in what the student actually does, which is the instructional task. And so as we looked at that data that has been stagnant for so long, there's a key principle when you do the reading on the instructional core. That's that increases in student learning occur only as a consequence of improvements in the instructional core. So essentially, it's the concept that you can do anything, and I know you as a board see so many decisions and you make choices about graduation, about schedules, about bus routes, and all those sorts of things. If we're talking about learning and wanting to see increases in student learning, any decision we make that doesn't actually impact the classroom and what happens in the classroom, in the teaching and learning that happens between students and teacher and content, it won't make any difference to a student's learning. It's not that those decisions aren't necessary to be made for safety and other reasons, but when we're talking about their achievement, we have to get and drill down into that core. So that's been our focus this year. And we've done major work to say, hey, we need to if we're gonna make something different, we've got to disrupt that instructional core. We've got to disrupt and change and make significant changes in the classroom experience for our students.
Hey, Will, I'm going to disrupt you for a second.
Perfect.
Can you go back, because I think this is a really important moment for the board.
Which one?
Go to the ELA slide. So the persistence in that gap and understanding why it's not closing and what the challenges are. The best way to figure that out, the best way to gather data around what's happening day to day for students is where? Where can you get that information? Anybody?
Me too. In the classroom?
Only in the classroom. So when you heard me speak at WASDA and you know that feedback is a priority for the school district, it's because we know this and we know this is persistent, but do we know enough about why that is? So go to the instructional core image. Do we know enough about the experience our students are having? Do we know about the struggles that our teachers are having and what resources they need? When we ask you to approve several $100,000 of new content, are we paying attention to whether or not that's making a difference? The only way to know that, and the only way to see what students are doing, is to be in the presence of students. You have to be in classrooms. So when I tell you that it's unique to what we're trying to do, it really is. Will being in hundreds of classrooms this year, Denise Meared's trying to do that, Justin Johnson and his team over there, Christina Benjamin, all those folks pressing on that. That's what it's about. It's about these powerful images that Will is sharing, not only about the data, but about what we need to try and figure out. It happens in the classrooms.
All right, so our district initiatives. So we'll circle back to exactly what Pete was talking about, but I wanted to put what have we done in this frame. PLC, professional learning communities, us getting together in collaborative groups and saying, hey, we can't work in islands. What have we done there? Feedback, what kind of feedback loops and systems are we doing? Because if we're not learning from each action, then we aren't gonna be growing. And then our multilingual learners, what are we doing specifically for them? And what are we learning as we've made some changes in how we look at data and how we look at their learning? So PLCs. First of all, the major thing, if you talk to any of our teachers right now, is just a major building overhaul in the ELA content. So when you think about that instructional core, really that right-hand side with content, we're making some major changes. And it's an absolute point of stress and difficulty because we have very veteran teachers. We have veteran teachers at Hiawatha in general, and many of them are saying, hey, I feel like I'm in my first year again. This is brand new, I didn't know this stuff, and I'm making it too, and I'm expected to not only teach it, but create it. And so it's a major overhaul. But they've been amazing to watch because of their commitment to doing it. We're getting creative about how do we create time and how do we create places and how do we work on that work. And they're doing it, and they're diving in, and it feels like we're building a plane in midair, but we know how important it is, and we know if we don't do it, again, we'll look at the data in 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years, and see the same thing. With that is just this really strong alignment. We said they're doing this in teams, so they're getting really clear on what are we teaching and how are we teaching it, and they're doing that, and it's aligning. It's aligning both across the grade level and then from grade level to grade level. A lot of these systems carry over. If you went into a kindergarten or first grade classroom and saw them teaching new vocabulary words to their students, and then you walked across the building to a sixth grade classroom, you would see very similar systems. In fact, the slideshow would almost look the same. You'd see them doing that. If you went from third to fifth and saw them teaching some of their ELA or reading a novel, you would see questions and strategies that teachers and students are all using that are very similar. So that coherence for a student, not having to jump from one grade level to another and learning a whole new system from a new teacher that teaches it a different way, while both of those systems might be great, it doesn't lead to coherence for students. So we're making those decisions based on the needs of students rather than the preferences of the adults in the system, and it's been really, really impactful and powerful to watch our teachers engage in that work and get really excited for it. We've talked about data meetings for several years, and we've continued that work. So that is what we do to assess, and it leads into the feedback loop as well, but that's what we do to assess our impact of our classroom instruction. And then in the area of math, we're getting a lot more coherent around our entry tasks. That's kind of coming. That's in progress right now. We're getting some support by John Wiseman at the district office, and our teams are going to start working on that entry task so students are able to see some of that content really regularly, and we're able to see the data from that. When it comes to feedback, this is a commitment we've had, but we've really upped our focus on it this year. Our admin commitment to walk and give feedback, walk through classrooms and give feedback a minimum of 2 times per month to every teacher. We fell slightly short of our goal the first couple of months, but we're on track this month, and we're working on just continually to make changes in scheduling and keeping that a priority, as Pete said. The really powerful thing about that, especially as we're going through such a major renovation, is we're really trying to position ourselves with our teachers as learners with them. We're in the process. We're writing some of the content and the questions that they're using in the classroom. So we're able to be in there and say, oh yeah, remember we talked about this. A lot of this coaching, because we're in the content creation, is getting more to more shoulder to shoulder with them in the very classroom. I've interrupted lessons and say, hey, can I try this really quick? I've noticed this in several grade level students are struggling, and I want to try this. And I'll give a little mini lesson, and then we'll move on and be like, that didn't work at all, or it did work, right? And we were able to do that. I did have one student that complimented me and said, Mr. Munbracht, you're a very good teacher. So I was excited about that. I had never taught 5th grade ELA before, but he liked whatever it is that I did. I probably don't even remember. Data reviews of grade level and building-wide data. We're trying to make sure we keep that data and remember that that's feedback. That's the ultimate feedback to our system each year and each month is how students are learning and being responsive to that. And then we're starting peer learning walks up and getting our teachers out and really pulling down the walls of our school and pulling down the isolation that occurs as we close the doors and start with our students is getting everybody comfortable and being in their rooms. And it's been really exciting to watch that and learn that process and refine that as we go through. And then when it comes to multilingual learners, really as we look at the data, what we're working on is making sure that as we have those data meetings, we look specifically at our multilingual learners and see what they're telling us about their learning and what's working for them and what's not working for them. I'm going to share some exciting data here when we look at outcomes that we were able to learn from that, which really, really gets me excited about where we're going and what we're trying to do. And then we plan. When we look at those, we say, hey, where is it? What is it? So we don't just look at the data like who who passed the test and who didn't, but like, what are their errors? And when we look at our multilingual learners, do they have specific errors that others don't? And what are we gonna do to, to address some of those things? And then we've also looked at our WIDA data, which is our language proficiency assessment, and seen where we really need to work there. And we have building-wide focuses on speaking and writing to help and support our students in that regard. Outcomes. So what is that doing for us so far? We're still early in the year. We haven't had full data cycles to start the year yet. We have a couple of weeks of strong assessments, of a lot of assessments coming right now to get our STAR assessments and our DIBELS and our early things there. So we're gonna know a little bit more in a couple of weeks. What we do have is our first round almost completed of all of our interims. So those are the teacher-built assessments, but they're the same now year to year because we're a few years into that. They're the same now. So we've been able to look and say, hey, where did third grade land last year on their math, and where did they land this year? Where did they land last year in ELA, and where did they land this year? That gives us a really good indicator, not only of how is that grade level doing, but how did that grade level before them do preparing them. So we're seeing, you get to see that as new fourth graders come in, and how well were they prepared, and then how did the teachers take them through that first interim, for example. And so what we've seen so far is an average increase. So this is all the grade levels that have taken that first interim so far, an average increase of 3% in math of students proficient. We have some that are way higher, and then some that bring that average there. And then 8% in ELA. And as I've said, ELA has been our stronger focus. It's been much more, we've been much more focused in that regard. And I would say even some of the interims, we've got an 8% increase, and some of those interims are a lot more rigorous than last year's because we revamped some of those as well. So we're seeing that. This is exciting, but not satisfying, I would say, as we look at this. We're excited that we're already seeing some things tick, but we've recognized that, hey, okay, that means keep going, not that we're there yet. So we've seen that. I want to circle back to our multilingual learners, our data highlight. I'm going to go back because Pete got me thinking about this when he talked about this gap. As we look, we're going to look math specifically, but as you see that persistent gap in ELA or math, I think a story you can hear in Othello a lot of times is, yeah, but that's a state average. We've got all these multilingual learners. We've got all this poverty. We've got all of these things. We say that a lot about why we justify that gap in a lot of different ways. But as we've done the work to break out our multilingual data over this beginning of this year, we've noticed a really, really cool trend with our multilingual learners, specifically in math content. And this held true, you'll see, we haven't taken a 5th grade math interim yet, but 1st through 4th grade, and then I'll share kind of our thinking around why we think that trend starts to go away in 6th grade. But what we have here is we break it out. So you see our grade level average, the percentage of students that achieve proficiency on their interim assessment. And then we break it out. How did our non-ML students do? And then what you see here is our ML students, but we broke them out by proficiency level. So if you're over a 3 proficiency level, you've achieved some level of proficiency. You started at like a 1, right? You started when you entered program, but you've progressed through and achieved. And what we've seen in all of these grade levels is that our ML students that have achieved and progressed over a level of 3 proficiency, that's not proficiency. That's not what the state considers proficient. They haven't exited program, but they're above a 3. They are by far our highest achieving subgroup in all of that, of all of the subgroups that we break out. So when we talk about that gap, what we learn here is that if we as a school commit ourselves to helping these students progress, a student that's at a 3 in these grade levels has made their expected progress or beyond that. All of these students are our highest achieving students. We know this from research. We know the power of a bilingual brain. We know what these students bring in terms of resiliency and creativity and work ethic. So as we think through this and look at this data, this just confirmed that. This gap isn't here because of something our students lack. It's there because of something that we're missing in the instructional core. And we can do these things, and we know we can make impacts to help them. So as we move more students in their language progression into this level 3. And like I said, that gap, or that kind of standout number started going away as we looked into 6th grade. And that's because students that are a level 3 in 6th grade and have been in our system the whole time haven't made that expected growth. They're starting to lag behind. The content is getting much harder, and they should be already exiting. They should be already a level 4 level and exited out of program by then. So the students that are still at a level 3 at that point, a lot of these students in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade that are at level 3 are exiting out already. And so we're excited to see this, and it teaches us a lot about our students and their capacity. So that's the kind of work we're doing right now at Hiawatha. Again, I was going to highlight our core values, and I think that last multilingual data in particular highlights what we believe about our Hiawatha students, those 2 bullet points in our core values, that they do bring individual strengths. And we don't look at the fact that a kid is a language learner as a deficit, but actually it can be a huge asset as we help them progress through and we do our work to support them. I'm grateful to be the principal at Hiawatha. I'm grateful for the teachers we're working with. They've inspired me all year in their ability and their willingness to dig into this work and just keep pressing forward. We've asked a lot of them, and their commitment. Like I said, I've been there for 5 years now of that 10 years that looks stagnant, and many of them have been there throughout. And I think it's easy in that level, in that place, to kind of justify the work you've done and to feel discouraged, but they haven't. They've jumped in and said, let's do this work and let's do something really special, and I think it's coming to Hiawatha, and we're excited for what we're doing. So thank you, and do you have any questions or comments?
Just, Will, I think your staff appreciates you very much. You've probably, for some of them, have been there the longest. Because I know Hiawatha had a big turnover for a while, and I believe they've really appreciate you and the guidance that you're giving your staff. We could really see it in all the staff during the meetings and the work that you guys are doing. I know you're demanding a lot of them lately, and there's been a lot of changes, but they're all on board. They're hitting the ground running. You could tell that. They're enjoying it.
Could you walk me through what does peer learning walks look like at Hiawatha?
Yeah, we're figuring that out. Right now, like I said, we have our data meetings. And so in the past, we've tried to double up data meetings to use subs efficiently. We've tried to have one in the morning and one in the afternoon because they're half days normally. But this year, with our focus on feedback and our focus on alignment and wanting to get people in different classrooms, we left a lot of those data meetings alone, kind of hanging in the afternoon, but we brought our subs in full day. And so what we do is we push subs strategically into different classrooms and grade bands, and we'll use it for a variety of different purposes. Sometimes it's around alignment. So our first one that we had, for example, we took 2 second grade teachers, so we had 4 subs for data meeting. We took 2 second grade teachers and 2 fourth grade teachers, and we walked through 3rd grade ELA. So 2nd grade can see what comes after, 4th grade can see how 3rd grade's doing it, and then they can go back to their teams and share some insights and things like that. So we've done things like that. Sometimes we're just strategic about, and as we go and create more frameworks, we'll be able to be strategic about strategies. Hey, we're all working on these management strategies, for example. Let's do learning walks with kind of a diverse group, and we'll walk through. We're actually using one of them in an upcoming day to take 4 of our grade chairs over to Wahidas and do some learning walks there and look through several grade levels that are a few years ahead of us on the ELA work. And so to see that coherence and start asking ourselves, hey, how did they get there and what are our next steps? So it's a variety of different things, but Melissa Rocha might have a few more gray hairs from coordinating it all, but she's doing a really, really awesome job at trying to find the highest leverage ways to get people in and do some of that.
Great. I appreciate you guys having us at Hiawatha. It's always a great time. I don't know about everyone else, but I am a Thunderbird at my core, and was raised by many people who work at that school still. And so I appreciate you guys having us with open arms and showing us around your school and for all of the learning that you brought for us tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Before we move on, Sharon, Will, could you go back to the ELA one?
Yeah.
And I want to tie it into Director Prowse's comment about peer walks. So if you were a teacher at Hiawatha or any school, and it was your first year, and this was the first meeting of the school year, and you haven't had any kids yet, and you saw this, would it be reasonable to say that you would think, well, at least I know where the range is. It's between those two little lines. It really hasn't changed much. And you might get this sense that what educators call a lack of efficacy. Really isn't going to matter much what I do because the scores and the kids are going to be what they're going to be. And there are really only 4 ways to develop efficacy, and what Will is doing around the peer learning walks is one of the 4 ways. You watch someone else do something and do it successfully, and then you go do that. And one of the other 4 ways to develop efficacy is through feedback or social persuasion. So the peer walks and Will and Jesse being in classrooms and Melissa being in classrooms, when you hear all of those things, it's not just because peer walks are cool. It's not just because we want teachers to feel like they're on the same team. All those things are pieces of it, but it really is the research and evidence behind developing efficacy. And if you have a teacher who believes that their work makes a difference, they're going to work harder. That's in any industry. Your industry is the same way. Efficacy is not unique to education. It's unique to humans. That's how we function. And so peer walks and feedback, why is it a priority for the district? That's why. When you do it well, it really makes a difference for kids.
Sure.
I love the walks, and I love that we're partaking with other schools, working together, because you can only improve by learning from someone else. And I think that it's that enthusiasm that our teachers are like, my thing's not on. But I really think that that's so important, and I think that's made the teachers be a little more energetic and wanting to see more progress. I can even sit with the kids. So when you walk through, the kids before were so nervous about having anyone in there, but now you see them on the street at the grocery store, they talk to you. I saw you yesterday, didn't I? You know, and one even asked me if it was my granddaughter's mother. No, but I mean, that's quite a little 7-year-old in me, but they see you and they're comfortable because they see you, and I think that's with you and Jesse and Melissa walking through constantly. That's what you want to see, because then the kids are comfortable and they want to learn. That's the thing. I think the kids, we're back to where they're wanting to learn, and that's where we want to be. We don't want them to be not wanting to learn, but I can see that at all the schools. The kids want to learn, and that's what we can't give up now, and you're doing a great job. I appreciate everything that you do there.
I loved seeing how the staff was really laid back. Like, they just seemed like they really love Hiawatha and they love what you guys are doing, and that they have trust and confidence in you and Jesse, and you can just tell that they just were all in sync. Everybody was like in their groups, and it seemed like everybody was in alignment with what they were doing. And I don't know, I just felt lots of positivity from your staff, which says a lot about you. It really does. And so I was really grateful to see that, especially even going through the walkthroughs with John. You could just tell that the teachers had a lot of confidence in what they were doing. So it was just a pleasure watching that.
Thank you.
My daughter, as you know, has been at Hiawatha for the last 6 years, and so I've probably spent more time in that school than any other in the district. Every school kind of has its own vibe and its own feel. The deep sense of caring at Hiawatha is what impacts me every time I go there. You can tell it's like they're committed to their students, and they're committed to how great their students are and how much better they can be. It's like you get this warm hug from the staff there. They care about each other as well, and I hope that even though it's early data, that's stoking their fire a little bit, that even the early data is showing a little bit to keep building that progress. Because I just think you've got an amazing team that's put together, whether they did it before you or because you're there helping to support that culture and giving them the information and the support that they need to continue to be the best teachers that they can be. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job there, and I just applaud your continued efforts with all of it.
Thank you.
Pete?
Nope, thanks again. Thanks,
Okay.
Will.
Thank you very much, Will. We will go to upcoming events. As you notice, we've got the 2 meetings in December, and take note that the meeting on December 20th is at noon, on December 20th. Okay? Is there anything else to add to that calendar at this moment? Okay. Board-
Yes,
Yes, okay.
a Christmas Miracle on Main Street, Saturday, December
Yes.
2nd.
And we'll go on to the board's self-assessment at the meeting. I want to just start off by saying thank you to some board members. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Sharon, you come on at a very difficult time, right at the very beginning of COVID. And the first 2 years, it seemed like our meetings were spent on Zoom. But we made it through the difficult times, and I've loved it where you've helped position where we are now, and I really enjoy it. Thank you for your time. Thalia, you have brought a lot of experience to the board. I really appreciate it. You've brought a different perspective to us at times, and I've really enjoyed that. Kelly?
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed your time too on the board. Both of you have, I could tell you have the kids on the mind. They are always at first. I know that you'll be leaving us on the board, but I know you will still be very active in the leadership and the role of the school district also too. So I really look forward to seeing you guys in the future and your participation in the district and the endeavors that we're going through. So I thank you. And Jaden is one more. I really appreciate your time as student representative. I've seen a lot of growth in you in the last year, a lot of growth in you in the last year. I hope you could still be there as a mentor towards our oncoming representatives too, and help them out and give them a couple words of encouragement as we're going through this.
So I don't think we're going to talk tonight and maybe next week, but you haven't gotten rid of us.
No.
I can tell you that, right?
Yeah.
Nope.
We've already said we're going to be volunteering
Very
and doing
active.
more, and the other day we went to DOHS for their Thanksgiving dinner, and Kelly was really mad at me because I went and helped, and she just pushed her way in because she wanted to know why she couldn't help, and I go, you didn't know. I knew to come early and put my stuff, gloves on and help, and that's the stuff that we'll still continue to do.
Well, that's okay. I
Because-
came down to the end and I hip checked Pete over and
Because
him
we
over
want
to
to be
Turkey and
involved
started
and we
helping
want to
anyway.
help, and, because we love the kids. That's the thing, is we
Yes.
love the kids and we don't want to see anything but, I keep saying, we're going higher, and we are. So, but, you know, it's kind of hard to lose 4 women at the same time, so we might have to have our Kleenexes next time. Right, Jaden?
I'll go next in case somebody else wants to jump in. But I first wanted to start by thanking Ken. Ken, it can't be an easy position for you to be on a board with all women, you and Sebastian. And so I appreciate your leadership as we lost Mike and Jen and a camaraderie that we had developed as a board. And you've been a great leader for us, so I appreciate you in that. Sharon, you and I came in together with very little knowledge, especially on my part, and we've weathered some pretty rocky storms together, and I appreciate the things that you've taught me, and when you've stood with me, and even when we've been standing on opposite sides of an issue, we have always stayed respectful and stayed friends, and I appreciate that. Jaden, watching you blossom over the last year has really been a highlight since I've been on the board, and I have absolutely loved it, and will continue to support you and root for you and be a cheerleader in your life as you move on to your next endeavor You have been fantastic, and I can't think of anything that could make me love you more. You have just been such a great representative of Othello, both on the state level and in the national level, and I've always been proud to have you as our student rep. Talia, you came into the board, really hit the ground running, and I've learned a lot from you as well, even before you were on the board when you served as Dr. Hurst's executive secretary, and have appreciated your friendship and your enthusiasm and your zest for how can we get the word out and how can we share these great messages about kids in our district, and always put that into my mind on how can we let other people know that this isn't just a generation of, which is easy to fall into as when you get older, to think this next generation is the downfall of the country. And if there's one thing that you have brought to this board, it is the reminder that that is not true. And that we have great kids at this district, and we have reason to celebrate and reason to shout from the rooftops of the great things that they've done. And Kelly, I didn't know you before the board, and it has been a true honor to know you and to really dig deep and see your character shine through. I don't know many people more passionate than you, and you have been a great example. And one thing that I have always really, really admired about you is how incredibly brilliant you are. And I have appreciated you bringing that to the board, and look forward to all of the things that come next for you, and hope that in time you will find yourself back on the school board, because you have so much to offer. And I really appreciate all that you have taught me and brought to the board, and the different perspective that you bring, when it's very easy for myself, especially as a board, to get stuck maybe in one way of thinking. And you always bring a different perspective, and it's challenging. And but we've always been able to keep a level of respect between us, even when it has been when we're on opposite sides of the issue. And I have appreciated your friendship, and hope that it continues, even though we won't be seeing each other as often as we do now. But I appreciate all that you've done. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Those were really nice words. I feel like Jaden right now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Like Sharon said, you guys have not gotten rid of me. Not too fast. I will definitely be around. I will definitely always advocate for the school district. Anytime you guys need me, you guys know I'm just a phone call away. The school district, Marisa, Pete, anybody, anything that I can do for the school district, I will always do, because yes, you're right. I do care a lot about the kids in this community, the community as a whole, and I'm willing to just drop everything for my community. So thank you. I've really enjoyed my time. It was almost a year, but I know my husband's going to be happy to have me back on Mondays.
Now to finish it up, the students' appreciation tonight, the bowling team. Really enjoyed having them here tonight, knowing that we got some more state champions in our presence at Othello School District.
For me, I know I got a little bit emotional, but bowling is definitely a core for me. It's something that I'm very passionate about, so I really loved seeing them here in that recognition.
Kelly, you had something?
I just was going to say thank you to all of you who were here when I came and interviewed, for giving me the opportunity. This has been really an inspirational 8 months for me, to be able to be a part of this work that is so incredibly important to me and to every kid in the district. And so, like Thalia, you haven't got rid of me. I will be here, and I will continue to stay engaged in the ways that I can, even if I'm not a board member, to try and bring the best things for our students here to the district. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for you guys giving me this opportunity to serve.
Do want to add a couple points, if I might, Ken?
Yes.
I have been coming to board meetings in a central office capacity for 8 years now. And for about 6 or 7 years before that, I came as a building principal, interested in how school boards work. So I've had an opportunity to watch a number of board members. And certainly in this job, it's given me a different perspective on your role and what it feels like to sit on this side of the table. What I have discovered in that time is if you keep, so policy governance, back to that. I think policy 1 or EL1 or however they were labeled was students first. And if you keep that at the front of your mind as a board member, even when people don't like what you've decided, you did it in the best interest of students. And that's what I appreciated about Kelly and Thalia and Sharon in their time serving on the board, bringing that idea and living that out. Because it's not always easy. You're not getting phone calls from students who are upset. You're getting phone calls from parents. You're not getting phone calls from 6th graders upset about a curriculum. You're getting phone calls from teachers. You're not getting phone calls from kids about COVID. You're getting phone calls from their grandparents and their aunts and uncles. And I imagine the pressure that you feel in that, and lots of times you're intercepting those things because people don't call me, right? They don't call the superintendent. They go to their board rep. So thank you for taking that on and always keeping students first. And perhaps a word for the incoming board members for your own, what word do I want to use? Your own level of comfort and understanding and effectiveness as a board member. At least from what I've watched in the last 16 or 17 years, it's got to be driven by putting students first. And if that's not the lane you live in, you're going to be miserable sitting behind that desk every Monday. And you'll wish that your wife was calling you home. So I looking forward to the opportunity to partner with folks and to make sure that we stay aimed at the targets that we've established, because they're the right ones, and that we continue to push in this system for the best outcomes for our kids. Now, I do want to say one thing about Jaden, and I left it out from WASDA, but probably the best experience I had at WASDA was walking around the University of Washington campus with Jaden and with Sebastian. For a couple of reasons. One, I didn't know your phone could run out of space from taking pictures, but Sebastian took pictures of everything. So that was very unusual. But Jaden's commentary, like her wit and her intelligence and the way she views the world, she's a very mature young lady, and I'm so thankful for the opportunities she's had to be on the board. And I'm glad that she's at a space right now where she says, I've had my turn. I'm ready to step away, and I'm going to be a senior next year. I think Jaden has a real plan for her life, and I've appreciated the model that she has presented for other students who have watched her, and some of the encouragement she's given to some of our new board reps that are students. So thank you to Jaden for your time and investment, and for we recognize those 2 student athletes today. You're the kind of kid we should recognize too. Thanks for your hard work and your commitment to this and for taking it seriously. Thanks, Ken.
Yes.
My last time to say a well-planned agenda.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm not going to be able
Yeah.
to. Yeah. And I know this is out of line, but I do really appreciate Mike being the president
That's-
at part of the time that I've been here. And I always follow the chain of command, so I did bother him a lot, and I've bothered Ken a lot, so.
This is kind of out of the meeting schedule, but I could do this as the board chair. But Mike, past chair, do you have anything to say?
I was still thinking we had next week, Tony and Mike, but to Sharon, Talia, and Kelly, you need to quit crying, first of all, because I've been crying most of the night. But that teaches me, or it shows me your passion, your commitment to this. Talia, you're never outspoken. You're going to bring what you believe in your heart to this board, and continue doing that no matter where you're at. Sharon, not a knock. You told me, man, Mike, I'm a 70-year-old. I shouldn't be doing this. You're still doing it, and you're committing yourself publicly to continue to do it. Thank you from the community. Thank you very much. I plan on doing this, like I said, on the 11th, because maybe you guys know or don't know, I'm still watching you guys on TV. I miss this. I don't regret, foregoing my last year. I've learned a lot where I'm at now. But absolutely, Ken, I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you very much for what you've done. To hear that you guys aren't going nowhere, you're gonna be watching board meetings, trust me. It's gonna take a while not to get used to it. But thank you very much. You've impacted lives, whether you believe it or not. I still hear thank yous from people when I'm. Was it controversial at times? Absolutely. Is it gonna continue to be controversial? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, guys, if I can tell Chris and Aaron and Isauro, if he's listening, put the kids in front of every decision you make, and right is gonna be right, and wrong is still gonna be wrong, but if the kids are at the forefront and they benefit from whatever decision you make, it's gonna be the right one. Thank you. I appreciate you all very much. Lindsay, it's your turn. 4 guys.
I know.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, any more for the self-assessment? Okay, at this time, the board will recess into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss the sale or lease of land and potential litigation. We'll meet back in Pete's office in 3 minutes. Thank you. Oh, no decision will be made following the executive